What's going on, Browns fans? Welcome into a live Cleveland Browns report by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here with some actual news in July. Christmas in July for Browns YouTubers like myself, because we have some hard-hitting news to talk about on today's show. We have some roster moves made by Andrew Berry, and then we have what I think is a very fun show mapped out for everyone watching. Everyone watching right now, pat in the back, it's July 6th. There's not a whole lot going on in the NFL world, but you know what? We're still here. We're still talking ball. We're talking Browns football. We're getting ready for training camp. We're getting ready for the 2023 NFL season. So I want to know, will the Browns make the playoffs? It seems so difficult for every team but the Bills, the Bengals, and the Chiefs to make the playoffs in the AFC because it's that loaded and competitive. But I just look at the roster, and I look at the talent on it. Deshaun Watson, Myles Garrett, two premier players at one of the two most important positions in football. I think they're going to find a way. Whether it's winning the AFC North, whether it's getting a wild card spot, put me down as a believer in the Cleveland Browns making the 2023 NFL playoffs. What are we saying here? Shaylin says yes. It is my girlfriend Shay's birthday tomorrow. So everyone get some HBDs in the chat right now for Shay on her birthday eve. Jamil Norman saying, let's go Cleveland. Time and the Buckeyes with me. Yes, they will. Black Dog 5, give me a Y for yes. Browns Hound 23 Bowl. We're going to Vegas. What an awesome city to make your first Super Bowl potentially, right? I don't know if there's a better city if you had to pop your Super Bowl cherry than Viva Las Vegas. Ryan Chowdrigan, HBD, and Jersey Dog says yes. Kenny Jackson, look at that. Thank you, friends. Flick saying, we got this. Let's go Browns. Fat F Gaming. HBD's in the chat for Shay. But I am a believer in the Browns making the playoffs. My way too early 7 AFC teams making the postseason. My 4 division winners, I will go with the AFC East first and say, I want to be a strong man. I don't think the Bills win the division. I think the Bills have been flirting lately with not improving. And in the NFL, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. So give me the Dolphins for Willie Fins. I know, our Dolphins guy, Will Scott, unfortunately went on to greener pastures recently. But give me the Dolphins. Screw it. Let's have some fun. Give me the Dolphins in the East. Give me the Browns in the North. And history is on my side for that, by the way. A little bit of homerism in there. But history's on my side, and I'll tell you why later on in the show. AFC West, give me Kansas City. The South, give me the Jags. And 3 wildcard teams, I'll take the Bengals, I'll take the Bills, and I will take the Chargers. But then there's the Ravens. Like, there's so many good teams. Like, one of these great teams is going to miss the postseason. But I just don't know how to predict it right now. All right. So, with that being said, shout out your city, by the way. We usually ask this off the top, but I thought we'd kind of switch it up and talk, some playoff Browns football for a moment right there. So, let me know where you are tuning in from. This is the build-up portion of the show. We let everyone click on the notification on their phone, hop into this chat, hop onto the live stream here, and then we will get into the nuts and the bolts of today's live Cleveland Browns report. But where are we watching from? Gregory H. is in Salem, Ohio. Justin Trimble is in Rancho Cucamonga. That's Workaholics, right? All-time name, I think, right there. Rock Creek, Ohio from Levi. Fat Gaming is in Cleveland. John's tuning in from North Canton. We've got Westlake, Ohio. Odessa, Texas. Westlake, Ohio. Marion, Ohio. Let's go Browns. Kenny, I'm dying for some football. Kenny, I'm with you too. But I am going to add this. The Hall of Fame game is not football is back. I know it's the first NFL game of the year, but it's not. Football is back on Thursday between the Chiefs and the Lions. Preseason football is the biggest tease in the world because you get super excited to see your team, but you're excited to see the starters. You don't get the starters. It's a bad appetizer, though. That's what Jack Lauderay says. Like, yes, it is an appetizer, but it's not like mozzarella sticks, right? It's, I don't know, what's a bad appetizer? What's the bottom of appetizers? Brussels sprouts. I hate Brussels sprouts. It's that. That's the app. So we got Georgia, Youngstown, Ohio, Ryan's in Dayton, Ohio, Cincinnati. Petey Hall of Fame game is just a dopamine hit for us football junkies. It'll be more entertaining this year because you have good quarterbacks playing. Josh Dobbs, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Zach Wilson. Like, people know those names. So it'll be much more exciting than previous Hall of Fame games. Last year was the Raiders and who? Was it the Colts? Someone help me out. It was definitely the Raiders, and I did not know the quarterback who was playing. Who played in the? It was Raiders versus Colts. Sounds Jags. Okay, yeah, that was awful. Go Browns, tuning in from Dallas, Texas. Love to see it. Depressed Browns fan tuning in from Dallas, Texas. We got Chris Lauderay, Flagstaff, Arizona. Shout out to Miss Lauderay. Thank you so much for all of your support here at Chat Sports. Now, speaking of Myles Garrett and the Cleveland Browns, switching gears a little bit, will Myles Garrett ever win Defensive Player of the Year? He has come, I can't even say close, despite what you may think initially, to winning the award, but he is without a doubt a top 5 defensive player in the league. So will he ever actually take home the crown of winning Defensive Player of the Year? This is your peak meaningless July sports talk radio debate that's just killing time until the season gets underway, but it's what us sports fans do. We debate things just to debate it. So now, let's debate this. Will he ever win Defensive Player of the Year? If there's a time, it's this year, with Jim Schwartz and Zadarius Smith to help him reach his full potential. I think this would be his best opportunity so far. A lot of ones coming in the chat. Love to see it. Hey, if you have not liked the video, by the way, go ahead and do so. Over 60 people watching right now, with just 14 likes. We want to get to 30 likes before we start the show. Now, on the show, we do have a mailbag at the end of it. So get your questions in right now. Hashtag Browns, or you can super chat. Always appreciated. If you like the free content we do here, you want to go above and beyond, super chats go a long way. So that's what we have for the end of the show, as we always do. But make sure to like the video as well. 19 likes. Once we get to 30, we will start the show. Yes, Mr. Jack Lauderay. Intro video going into segment 1. Yeah. Now, this is what we have on tap for you guys today. Our pre-planned segments, if you will. We're ranking Browns offseason moves. I'm very excited for this. Then 5 bold predictions. And you know they're bold because I put it in all caps. And then mailbag, hashtag Browns or super chat. And then we also have some real news to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. We already put a video out about this, but if you did not watch that video, let me give you the spark notes. Brad Stainbrook tweeted out that the Browns have signed cornerback Thakarius Keyes and waived center Dawson Deaton with injury designation. So let's get to know Thakarius Keyes. Bo Pete is his nickname. Former 7th-round pick out of Tulane by Kansas City back in 2020. He has hopped around lately, a member of 4 different practice squads in 2022. In his career, doesn't have a ton of experience. 13 games played, just 1 start. That 1 start coming with Kansas City, where he also has some regular season experience with the Indianapolis Colts and the Chicago Bears. So this is not a household name. Hand up, I had never heard of this guy before they signed him. But hey, welcome to the Cleveland Browns, Mr. Keyes. That is the Wikipedia version of getting to know the newest member of this 90-man roster. To be honest with you guys, I don't expect him to make the 53-man roster. I'm a little surprised they added a corner. That would definitely be towards the bottom of my predictions of positions they would add before training camp. But Andrew Berry can be somewhat unpredictable. Now, the corresponding move was the release of Dawson Deaton. 7th-round pick by Cleveland last year, coming out of Texas Tech. Unfortunately, in the middle of training camp, he tore his ACL. That was a bummer because Cleveland had already lost Nick Harris to a torn ACL, and then they lose Dawson Deaton to a torn ACL. The Browns released him with an injury designation. That's more of a warning to the rest of the NFL. He's not healthy. He's injured. That's why we're moving on from him. So my best guess is the ACL recovery is just not going super well, and the Browns wanted to make a move. and they had their hearts set on Mr. Keyes. I don't quite know. But his nickname is Bo Peep. It is straight out of a Key and Peele skit. You can't make this shit up. So I'm a fan of the move. 95% of the name. That's really why. But you can't. Now, we do have a super chat to get to coming in from Paul Brooks, getting the F-pitch going. Paul, F-pit in the chat for Paul right now. Thank you so much for the super chat. Let's go Browns, baby. Cannot wait for week 2. Monday Night Football at Acrisure Field. Just such a stupid name. But the Browns are going to curb stomp Kenny Pickett and Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin goes below 500 for the first time in his NFL career. And the Browns are dancing their way to an AFC North title. So F-Pits in the chat right now for Paul Brooks. Thank you so much for your super chat. We are 1 like away from 25 likes. We'll get the show started once we get to 25. Right on cue. There it is. If you like the free content, super chats are always appreciated, but liking the video, being active in the chat, it just tells the almighty YouTube gods to push our video to more Browns fans, and that is a nice little circle of life here on the internet. So who knows? Maybe we'll be going live on Threads soon. You think Threads will ever have a live? One day we could be live on YouTube and Threads. Do you have Threads? I got Threads last night. Yeah, Jack got Threads. I got Threads. I posted all my hot takes over there. I kind of view Threads as like a public diary because it's so new and raw. You could just put all your like really wild, I mean, not that kind of wild, but like wild sports take on there. And who gives a shit? Like it could be just trying to get engagement, but also it could be dormant in like 3 months or something if Twitter wins this battle and no one's going to know about your bad takes. But my first like thread, is that what it's called? First thread post? I'm not quite sure. I said the Bills move on from Stephon Diggs. This is Dak Prescott's last year in Dallas. Financially, it really doesn't make sense. But if the Cowboys don't go to the NFC Championship game, which we constantly knock them for getting there, that's a really high bar. But I think Dallas might want to switch it up. Jack, what's going on?
Here's my one joke of the day. I saw this last night on Threads.
Yeah.
Okay? And then we'll start the show. I'm going to leave it on this. So you know how on Twitter everyone's like, hold up, let him cook.
Yeah.
So someone said, they're like, well, does that mean on Threads we say, hold up, let them sew?
There were some good memes on Threads. Wendy's was killing it. They just jumped right in. All right, we got Joshua Miller with a super chat. Let's hit that super chat after this first segment. Josh will hit it after the segment, and then we will include it in the mailbag as well. So stay tuned for that. All right. Like the video, and let's jump into a live Cleveland Browns report. Coming up on today's show, I'm going to rank my favorite 10 moves the Browns made this offseason. They made a whole bunch more moves, but I'm going to rank my top 10 from 10 to 1. Now, before we look at the first one, I do want to preface it with a bit of a caveat, which is it's hard to find a balance of what's good short-term and what's good long-term for this team. So I kind of went down the middle 50-50, finding a balance of knowing, hey, this is a move for just one season versus this is a move for hopefully years to come. Now, my number 10 spot as we make our way down the list was signing Marquise Goodwin, the speedy wide receiver from Texas. Last year, he was with the Seattle Seahawks. He comes over, signs a 1-year, $1.7 million contract. He doesn't have fantastic stats for a guy who's been in the league for 9 years, just 3,000 yards, but he has the ability to take over a game or two from time to time, right? He's got that burst, that elite track star speed. Just go 4 receptions casually for 126 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, he's going to have some phenomenal games where he stretches the field, he takes the top off a defense, and he's the home run 60-yard catch and throw. But there's also going to be games where there's no Marquise Goodwin sighting. He's not the best route runner. He doesn't have the greatest hands. He's not a red zone target, but he does have that elite speed that defenses have to respect. So when he steps on the field, it opens things up for other wide receivers. Goodwin, as we can see, he's going to win you 1 to 2 games. That's kind of my tagline for Marquise Goodwin. We'll win you 1 to 2 games. We'll disappear for 7 to 8 games where he gets no receptions or anything like that. But he's still a pretty valuable piece to this offense because, again, when he's on the field, the corners, the safeties, they have to respect his speed because more than just once in his career, he has gone the distance and he has taken over games, and teams do not want to be on the receiving end of that. My number 9 move the Browns made this offseason was signing safety Rodney McLeod. When you look back at all the free agent signings, there are some big names in there, but don't sleep on the Rodney McLeod signing. 1 year, $1.3 million contract for the 32-year-old safety who was with the Philadelphia Eagles with Jim Schwartz and was a big piece of that success in the city of brotherly love. When you look at Cleveland's safety room, they're going to run a 2-safety set a good chunk of the time, but they're also going to have a lot of 3-safety looks. And when they want to go for a 3rd safety, Rodney McLeod's going to be that first man off the bench. What I really love about this addition, what was the biggest knock with the Browns defense early on last year? Lack of communication, right? Just didn't have that veteran leadership to turn things around when things started to go south. McLeod will definitely get Juan Thornhill and Grant Delpit, 2 younger guys who have only been in the league for 3 to 4 years. He's going to get them on the right track and make sure there are no wide open, blown coverages at the back end. My 8th favorite move by the Browns this offseason was signing Anthony Walker. So we've got a good run of signings to start here. I'm a fan of the Anthony Walker acquisition because you saw how valuable he was last year once he went down in that Steelers game. The Browns defense after that, things went from like borderline bad to downright bad, right? The Falcons just blew the Browns' run defense apart the next week. The Chargers abused it the week after that. So Walker comes back on a 1-year, $1.2 million contract. This is a linebacker room that's filled with injuries from last year. Hopefully Walker is ready to go by week 1. A knock, unfortunately, for Walker has been the lack of availability. Through 2 seasons so far with the Browns, he's only played a combined 16 games, which isn't even a full season anymore. So hopefully this year they can get Walker for more than 13 games, 11 games. 13 games, that's what he played his first year with the Browns. But I think Walker coming back is a very good piece of this defense, a great leader in the middle of it, and he's going to make sure everyone's doing their job and is in the right spot. Now, who do you think the X factor is for the Browns' 2023 defense? It's not Myles Garrett. Like, you can rely on Myles Garrett. Even if it's a down year, he's still going to get 12-plus sacks in a bad year. For me, I'm going to go with Denzel Ward. If Cleveland wants to go deep into the playoffs and they want to play football into January, that means slowing down Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Josh Allen. Now, Denzel Ward has had a lot of success slowing down Joe Burrow, but he needs to do that against Mahomes and Allen as well and lock up some of their top wide receivers. My 7th favorite move of the offseason was signing Obo Okoronkwo. Now, this was a move that, when it broke, hand up, I did not know a whole lot about Okoronkwo. He was not on my radar whatsoever, but he inked a 3-year, $19 million contract, and he has gotten better and better as he has been in the NFL. Last year with the Houston Texans, 5 sacks, 36 pressures, 11 QB hits, 9 tackles for loss. I know 5 sacks does not jump out to you, but that was a dreadful Houston Texans defense. Working opposite Myles Garrett is a great gig for anyone, right? Olivier Vernon's best season came opposite Myles Garrett, right? Jadeveon Clowney had his career saved thanks to Myles Garrett. So Okoronkwo with the rotation is going to be awesome with Zadarius Smith. Now, I will say, when the Browns traded for Zadarius Smith, that obviously kind of bumped down Okoronkwo on the depth chart. I think they're going to have a healthy rotation on the defensive line. Smith will get kicked in from time to time to get all 3 pass rushers on the field at once. But if they didn't trade for Zadarius Smith, I'd probably have this closer to 1 than 10 right now. Now, before we get on with the rest of my moves this offseason and ranking them, join our Browns YouTube family here. We are across 20,000 subscribers. We're trying to get to 21,000 before the season gets underway. So if you're looking for a Browns YouTube channel that's completely free and has daily updates, you found the right spot. My 6th favorite move this offseason was signing Juan Thornhill. I promise we're going to get a break in the signings in just a moment, but Juan Thornhill comes over as a nice free agent acquisition. 3 years, $21 million. Go back in time to March. What were we all begging for a week or two into free agency? A John Johnson replacement. There were a lot of good safeties out there. Jesse Bates was definitely someone Browns fans were drooling over, but Juan Thornhill for $7 million a season is an extremely good signing. Last season, 3 picks, 9 pass breakups, even got into the backfield. PFF ranked him as the 20th best safety out of 88 qualifying players. Thornhill and his 2 rings comes over with a lot of experience in the postseason, something that the Cleveland Browns roster does not have, and he can impart on his new teammates. Now, I do want to share an awesome deal with everyone before we get to my top 5, and that is the Browns polo deal with Fanatics. I'm wearing mine right now. I was such a big fan of it, I had to get my own. So you can get your own on sale, but you have to use our link, chatsports.com/Browns Polo. It's in the comments. It's in the description of today's video. Get your own Petey's polo. It's a great polo to wear to events that might not be super nice because you're still wearing an NFL polo, but you don't want to look like a slump, right? You don't want to look like a guy in a tank top. You can be presentable while also rocking your favorite team, so get your own Cleveland Browns polo today. My 5th favorite move this offseason is not a signing. It's not a trade. It's actually hiring special teams coordinator Bubba Ventrone. So Bubba comes over to replace Mike Prefer, and he comes to this job with 2 responsibilities. Very simple stuff. Improve Cade York and find a spark in the return game, right? That was honestly the kiss of death for Prefer last year. He wasn't a bad special teams coordinator, but Bubba Ventrone, a Browns legend, is a much bigger improvement. He was awesome in Indianapolis, and he knows he has to get the best out of Cade York because last season, after the first week of the season, things started to go downhill for Mr. York. He went 22 of 30, 73%. That number needs to start with an 8 this year. That is Bubba Ventrone's biggest assignment. And then he's got to find a return man. That was a revolving door last year at kick and punt return. He's got to find a permanent option and someone to just set the table a little bit. The reason why I have it at 5 is special teams is just not as valuable as it once was with the new return rules really limiting kickoff returns. At number 4, I'm going to go with the Elijah Moore trade. Now, this is the part where things get really close and really bunched up, but I think the Elijah Moore trade is number 4 because the Browns needed speed, right? That was one of the biggest needs going into this offseason. It was obvious in 6 games with Deshaun Watson last year that Watson was bad. He had to improve. Kevin Stefanski had to improve. But a big reason why both those statements were true was because this wide receiver room was lacking speed. Amari Cooper was hurt with a core muscle injury. DPJ has never been a true burner, if you will. But they moved back to get Elijah Moore from the New York Jets. And I have sky-high expectations for the former Ole Miss Rebel. In his rookie season, in just 11 games, he scored 5 touchdowns, recorded 538 yards. Then we know that him and the offensive coordinator LaFleur did not see eye to eye, more or less got put in the doghouse last year, and LaFleur got fired. So I'm going to be inclined to believe that maybe Elijah Moore had some good points in whatever he was trying to get across. The Browns, like I said, they needed speed on offense, and Moore brings that. And another big reason why I'm a fan of this move and why it's number 4 on my list is the top 2 wide receivers on this roster, Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones, are question marks when it comes to their future in Cleveland. Cooper with a huge cap hit next year, $23+ million, and DPJ, an unrestricted free agent. So Elijah Moore comes in here with some longer-term security for this team at that position. My number 3 move is the signing of Dalvin Tomlinson. Now, you can make good arguments to flip-flop number 4 and number 3, but I cannot get the bad taste out of my mouth of last year's pathetic, sorry-ass run defense that let the Falcons win a game, let the Chargers win a game. They were the worst run defense, in my opinion, in football last year. Andrew Berry was gambling on being one of the worser teams, but you can't be dead last. And Dalvin Tomlinson comes in to make sure they will no longer be dead last. Priority number 1 this offseason was get a real defensive tackle, right? Because Jordan Elliott and Taven Bryan, they're nice, but they're not even that nice. But Dalvin Tomlinson comes over, and he might not make this group a top 10, but they don't need to be top 10 in run stopping. They just can't be 32. They can be 20. I'm fine with 20. They could be 21. They could be as high as 16 or low as 16. But they just have to get out of the cellar. And Dalvin Tomlinson is a big step in that direction. It was the biggest need, in my opinion, going into this offseason. And it was a nice, solid check mark in that box. Now, should the Browns sign another defensive tackle? This is what I want to hear from everyone watching right now. Do you think they've done enough, or do you think they should be making some more moves on the defensive line? I want to hear what all of our viewers have to say. The number 2 move was the Zadarius Smith trade, something that no one really saw coming. There was some buzz that the Browns might be looking to add a veteran free agent edge rusher after the draft, but no one saw them going out and getting a guy like Zadarius Smith for pennies on the dollar. Like, before we started filming, producer Jack Lauderay, he's on a Browns guy. He's like, that's all it costs to get him? I'm like, yeah, that's all it costs to get him. A couple day 3 pick swaps to land a player who, over the last 4 seasons, you can see he has put up double-digit sack numbers 3 out of the last 4 years. Now, last season, he emerged on the scene in Minnesota with 9.5 sacks in the first half of the season. Unfortunately, a knee injury slowed him down, but he is back to 100% health. And if you have casually 12.5 sacks as the number 2 player on your defense, yeah, that's going to do great things for Myles Garrett, right? When TJ Watt won Defensive Player of the Year with 22.5 sacks or whatever, he didn't do it by himself. He had a great partner in crime, Highsmith, Hayward. So if you add Darius Smith to this equation with Jim Schwartz, I think this is a 20-sack season potentially for Myles Garrett. I think that is a realistic goal for him. With Myles Garrett having Zadarius Smith on the other side of the defensive line for him and Jim Schwartz as his defensive coordinator, we could be seeing the best season yet out of Superman. My favorite move, number 1, was the hiring of defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz. You might have thought it would have been a signing or a trade, but no. It is the defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz coming up to Cleveland, going back to where he started his career. Schwartz is going to maximize this defense. I mean, we talked about wanting to get a new run-stopping defensive tackle this offseason, but the biggest cry from the Dawg Pound last year was get Joe Woods out of town. And the Browns didn't just get him out of town. They didn't just replace Joe Woods. They got someone who is so far ahead of Joe Woods. This defense and the talent on it is hopefully, knock on wood, finally going to live up to the expectations, right? There is Pro Bowl and All-Pro talent all over this defense. Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, Martin Emerson. You can make a good argument. That's one of the top 5 cornerback rooms in the NFL. Didn't look like it last year, though. On paper, it's all there. Jim Schwartz is going to turn it from paper to between the lines, and I can't wait to see it. That's why that was my number 1 move this offseason. This Browns defense will hopefully live up to the billing now that they've got one of the best defensive minds in football in Jim Schwartz on the sidelines calling the plays. So what was your favorite move the Browns made this offseason? Jim Schwartz is a sleeper one. It's my number 1. If I had to undo any of those moves, that would be the last one I would want to undo, followed by Zadarius Smith and Elijah Moore. But let me know what your favorite offseason move was. Now, to wrap up the show, Jack Lauderay is very confident. He's talking big game out in the bullpen here at Chat Sports.
I don't know.
What card you going with?
Oh, I don't know, man. I don't feel confident anymore. I felt confident beforehand, but then you get under the lights and it's a little scary.
Dude, the lights are way brighter than you guys think.
Give me 3 hearts.
I like it. I'm gonna go one more cut. Give me 7 of diamonds. 9 of spades. 9 of spades. That is it for today's show. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's show. If you did, subscribe, like the video, notifications, you know all that stuff. Leave a comment, and we'll see you guys later on. Favorite move this offseason. I don't think I saw anyone get the card correct. Ace of spades, ace of hearts, jack of hearts. I got it on the king of diamonds. If you're going to get it right, to get it on a face card just feels that much better. I'm not going to lie. It's a king, too. Now, favorite move this offseason, let me know in the comment section. There were some other moves that I excluded from my list. I just felt those 10 moves were better than, say, They're re-signing a Taki only because I don't think Taki is going to play 17 games this year. He tore his ACL in December of last year. He might be coming back in October this year. So for that reason, it kind of falls down my list. Jim Schwartz from Gregory H. Gregory and I see eye to eye. That is my number one move. If there's one move I do not want to live without, it is Jim Schwartz coming over as defensive coordinator. I think the other moves are fantastic, but that is the one that I do not want to lose. If there was a supplemental draft and the Browns had to forfeit one of their offseason moves in this hypothetical world, that would be the one I'd want to protect. Keep Jim Schwartz in Cleveland. Joshua Miller says not signing Kareem Hunt. That's creative. I don't hate it. We got the Pass Master General here. You know the Pass Master General, right? Jack Lauderay and the Pass Master and NFL Daily go way back. We got a question coming in from the Pass Master. We will have that for our mailbag. But we do have a super chat. Yeah, we got a super chat to hit here from Joshua Miller. Any more news and rumors about the stadium? I got nothing for you. It's going to cost billions of dollars probably. So billions of dollars kind of takes some time. But no, I don't have any new updates on the stadium or on construction or anything like that. It's 2023. There's not going to be a new stadium or a, what's the word? Not repaired, renovated. Thank you. Renovated stadium until 2028 at the earliest, I would think, right? If they announce something tomorrow, it wouldn't go into effect or the wheels wouldn't get in motion until 2024. And then it might take 3-4 years after that. That's kind of on the longer side, but that's if something happens tomorrow. So, Josh, that's my best guess. We got another super chat from Joshua Miller. What's going on, dude? What non-QB player would we steal if allowed to? Great question. We're going to have this in our mailbag, Josh. I'll answer it now, and I'll think I can come up with another answer later on. If I'm going this route, yes, an answer like Micah Parsons would be incredible because this defense would go over the top and he's a top 5 player or whatever. But if I'm picking based off of what the Browns need the most and not just going Justin Jefferson, because why not? The Browns need like a true linebacker or defensive tackle. So Aaron Donald, I think, would be a good player. I think he's all right, too. So Aaron Donald sounds like I think there's good highlights on to Aaron Donald. So I think that sounds like a good move. Just downplay the shit out of that. Aaron Donald would probably be the move. I mean, you add Aaron Donald to any team, you're going to feel like you're now a Super Bowl contending team. That's Aaron Donald. Now we are going to jump into the second segment on today's show, all about bold predictions. The bolder, better. So Jack Lauderay, once I have the green light from you, we will jump into a bold predictions portion of a live Browns report. We got 39 likes. We need 40 to start this next one. Like the video if you have not already, and we will jump into the next segment on the show. We are 1 like away. Who's going to be that lucky person? Just push us over the edge. Just a little kiss across, and then poof, we're at 40 likes, and we can get this show on the road. There it is. The 40th like comes in. Make sure to get those questions in, by the way, but you have to use hashtag Browns. If you don't use that hashtag somewhere in the question, then it can't pull our software. Our software can't pull it and put it on screen. Jack, are we ready to go? Okay. Am I ready to go? Yeah. Okay. I'm not ready to go. One moment. That's not the script in front of me. Okay. I want to get some shout out here because, there it is. Okay, here we go. Now I'm ready. My bad. Let's talk about some bold predictions. We're going to take a look at some bold predictions for the Browns in 2023. But first, today's show is sponsored by Hexclad. They are giving the Dawg Pound 10% off when you go to hexclad.com/chat and use promo code chat. And you're going to get the best dishes in the dishware game, the best pots and pans on the market. So get yours today. We'll tell you more about them later on in the show. But like I said, it is all about bold predictions for 2023. I've got 5. It's July. Just hang out and bear with us here. It's the dog days of the offseason. Why not kind of go for the green on a short par 4? So my first bold prediction is this. Deshaun Watson throws 34 touchdowns. Now, I picked the number 34 deliberately because that would be a career high for Watson in a season. So more or less a career year for Deshaun Watson. Now, 34 touchdowns last year would have been good for 4th in the NFL. And I feel like Deshaun Watson's ceiling is very much in that range where he can be top 5 in passing touchdowns. I mean, after all, he was the NFL passing leader not too long ago. So I think 34 touchdowns is not out of reach for someone like Watson. But last year was not glamorous. I don't need to remind anyone of that. He had some great quarters, I would say. Just never any good games, right? Never quite put it together. The Commanders game was good, but outside of that, there were a lot of visible growing pains. He was clearly rusty. But Watson is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, in my opinion at least, because of what he did in 4 years in H-Town, where you can see 3 straight years to close out his career as a Texan, 2 of those years going over 4,000 yards, 1 nearly getting to 5,000, 26 touchdowns back-to-back seasons, 33 touchdowns his last year with the Houston Texans. So Deshaun Watson, in my book, is definitely someone who could get up there into the high touchdown columns right there, and he can be one of those better players in the NFL. But the thing is, the hiccup, if you will, would be Kevin Stefanski comes in with a brand new offense. Deshaun Watson has spoken about this new offense, and there are going to be some growing pains. I don't know how long it takes, right? They have talked about that, installing a new offense. Everything's new was the catchphrase in Berea during minicamp. So does everything's new mean week 1 is a bit slow? Week 1 and week 2 are a bit slow? Just the preseason? I'm not sure, but they've had a whole offseason to install it. It can't bleed too far into the season. That is the one little pump the brakes thing I will add. Now, before we get on to my second bold prediction, what's your confidence level at for Watson in 2023? Scale it 1 to 10, 1 being you're a hater and you're here to troll the Browns, and 10 being you are the Brown Tiger, you are Deshaun Watson, you know that you are way up here. I'm at an 8.1. I'm at an 8.1 on my confidence level for Watson this year. Let me know what yours is in the comment section. The second bold prediction I've got is Myles Garrett wins Defensive Player of the Year. Now, Myles Garrett comes into this year coming off his best season of his NFL career in my book because he put up 16 sacks in 16 games, and he did that while suffering a car crash a quarter of the way through the season. So if that doesn't tell you he's Superman, I don't know what will. Now, I'm going to give more of a reasoning of why Myles Garrett is going to win Defensive Player of the Year in this bold prediction. But first, let me tell you something quick about today's sponsor, HexClad. It is time to up your dishware game. Get the best pots and pans in the industry because today's sponsor, HexClad, has revolutionized the cookware industry with a hybrid pan that gives you all the convenience and cleanup of nonstick, the versatility of your grandma's cast iron, and a lifetime warranty just in case you find a way to destroy them. Now, you can get 10% off when you use promo code CHAT at hexclad.com/chat. HexClad, in my book, checks every single box when it comes to picking your cookware. They are metal utensil safe, dishwasher safe, and oven safe up to 500 degrees. I'm telling you guys, stop dining out. Start saving some money, start being healthier, cooking at home, and a great way to do that is by using HexClad. Now, you don't take my word for it. Gordon Ramsay, my favorite chef, said, "The sear I get with these pans is incredible with absolutely no stick. The temperature control is utter perfection, and the cleanup is effortless. I love using HexClad at home." You know what you say? Say, "Yes, chef." So if Gordon Ramsay is telling you to get HexClad, yes, chef is right. You can get 10% off when you go to hexclad.com/chat, hexclad.com/chat, promo code chat. All that information you need is in the comments and the description of today's show. So get your very own HexClad pot and pan. They've got so many great, awesome cookware devices, and it's waiting for you in the comments section below. Now, getting back to the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. Look at the last few Defensive Players of the Year, and you can compare Myles Garrett's voting spot with each time. Last year, he finished 5th. That was the first time he ever garnished a vote for Defensive Player of the Year. Now, that might surprise you because it surprised me, but you got to remember that usually MVPs and things of the year are runaways at the end. Nick Bosa last year, there was very little conversation about who else it could be. TJ Watt the year before, who wasn't voting for TJ Watt? The guy had like 22.5 sacks. Same goes for Aaron Donald. Like a lot of times, there's not much of a debate to be had when it comes to the end. And if you're not that guy or the second place guy, you're really not getting a vote. Now, when you look at the recent Defensive Player of the Year winners at the edge rusher spot or the defensive line, 18.5 sacks for Bosa, 22.5 sacks for Watt. Aaron Donald had 13.5 sacks, but we know how violent he is in the run-stopping department as well. So if Myles Garrett wants to win Defensive Player of the Year, we sort of know what he has to do, right? He has to get to some of these numbers right here. Now, he's gotten to 16 career sacks before. He's done that many times in his career, or the last 2 years of his career. But 18.5, that was the bar to get to last year. So now the question is, can Myles Garrett get to 18.5 sacks in his NFL career this season? And I think there's good reason to believe that because he's got Zadarius Smith opposite of him and Jim Schwartz at defensive coordinator. The stars have never aligned more for Myles Garrett to get to 20 sacks. If he gets to 20 sacks, he's your NFL Defensive Player of the Year. So what do you guys think? Will Mr. Myles Garrett, number 95, ever win Defensive Player of the Year? 1 for yes or 0 for no. Typing 1 for yes, because I think he's going to get 1 Defensive Player of the Year in his NFL career. Third bold prediction is Nick Chubb wins the rushing title. I think this one is probably the boldest of the bunch just because it's hard to win the rushing title as you get a little bit older in your career, unless your name is Derrick Henry. But last year, Nick Chubb, 302 carries, 1,500 yards, has never gone below 5 yards a carry in his NFL career, and 12 touchdowns. Now, the key to winning a rushing title is not being a good running back. That has nothing to do with it. It's just lots of carries. If you want to win the rushing title, you have to be force-fed the football. And Nick Chubb has gotten a lot of carries, but he's never led the NFL in carries, right? When you look at the previous rushing titles versus Chubb, Josh Jacobs last year, 340 carries. Nick Chubb had 302. If Nick Chubb gets 340 carries, he's your NFL rushing leader. Jonathan Taylor the year before had 100 more carries-ish than Nick Chubb. That's because Chubb missed some time. The previous 2 years when Derrick Henry won it, 378, 303. Either year, Nick Chubb went over 300 carries. Now, he's finished second in rushing yards twice in his career. The reason why I think this is the year for Nick Chubb to get the carries to win the rushing title is no Kareem Hunt equals more touches for Nick Chubb. Jerome Ford is not going to get the same amount of usage that Kareem Hunt got in this offense. So if they want to run Nick Chubb into the ground for the last 2 years of his contract, and that means giving him all the carries and not splitting it a little bit with Kareem Hunt, and he gets 340 or 350 carries, Nick Chubb with 5 yards a pop, he's going to get to the number 1 spot when it comes to the rushing title. So that is why he is my bold prediction for this season. Now, I just want to give Nick Chubb some love because he's criminally underappreciated, undervalued, under-talked about. Whatever you want to say, outside of Cleveland, there's just not enough attention on number 24, which I'm sure he likes it that way because he's always been a soft-spoken guy. But let's show the guy some love. Let him know the Dawg Pound has his back by liking today's video. My fourth bold prediction is that the Browns win the AFC North. Now, before you just call me a homer, I have reason to believe that. And that is history's on one of 3 team side. So at minimum, the Browns have a 33% chance of winning the division if history alone strikes again. Allow me to illustrate. Look at the AFC North winners since the inception of the division in 2002. A lot of Steelers, a lot of Ravens, some Bengals mixed in, no surprise, okay? We keep moving on in the history books here. Okay, the Ravens won back-to-back years. The Bengals kind of hopped in a little bit there. The Steelers got 2 out of 3 there, or 2 out of, yeah. Oh, one back-to-back actually in 2016 and 2017. Interesting, okay. Well, fast forward a little bit, get closer to present day. The Ravens won back-to-back in 2018 and 2019. The Steelers broke it up. The Bengals won the last 2 years. You probably know where I'm going with this by now. No team has won the division 3 straight years. So we can eliminate the Bengals from winning the division if history strikes again. So if it comes down to the Browns, the Steelers, and the Ravens to win the division, the Browns have the best roster since the Cardiac Kids days. I think this would be a pretty good year for them to finish at the top. And you can parlay that with the worst to first thing, which is every single year it feels like a team goes from worst to first, from their bottom of the division to the top of the division, and the Browns make a lot of sense. I don't think it's going to be the Jets because I'm just not a believer in Aaron Rodgers working out in New York. Won't be the Texans. The Chiefs have the AFC West by a stranglehold. Not going to be the Commanders. I think the Bears have a good chance because the NFC North is so mid. It's just everyone's average, it feels like, going into this year. The NFC South is definitely wide open. I think that's the worst division in football, so it could be Atlanta. Not going to be the Cardinals with Colt McCoy starting for half the year. And like I said, this is not going to be the first instance of a team going from worst to first. Last year, the Jags did it. The season prior was the Bengals when they went on their deep run. Before that, the Eagles. Did not happen in 2019, but in 2018, Deshaun Watson did it with the Houston Texans. And then it was the Jags, that 2017 run where they were one quarter away from going to the Super Bowl. So for that reason, as a student of history, I'm a believer in history repeating itself. The Bengals will not win 3 times in a row. Has not been done despite some juggernaut teams in this division over the last 20 years. The Browns, worst to first, and the 2-year run for Cincinnati. The stars are aligning. My 5th and final bold prediction is that the Browns go to the AFC Championship game. I'm not going to go all the way to say that they're going to go to the Super Bowl in year 1, although we have seen some teams kind of out of nowhere go to the Super Bowl, right? Last year, the Eagles were a playoff team the year before that, but they were not favorites to win the NFC or anything close to that. The season prior, no one saw the Bengals coming. No one saw the Bengals coming. Before that, I would say the Browns were the unexpected playoff run, right? They knocked off Pittsburgh on the road. The Super Bowl, the AFC NFC Championship game was a bit chalky, so not a prime Super Bowl run Cinderella team that year, but they got all the way to the divisional round, and if not for Matt frickin' Moore, who knows? 2019, you had the 49ers were awful the year before. They were trash. They were one of the worst teams in football. And then they were in the Super Bowl the next year. And the Chiefs before that, Patrick Mahomes' first year, I believe. Yeah, not many people pegged Patrick Mahomes to go all the way to the AFC Championship game, if not for, was it Chris Jones, Frank Clark, one of them jumping off sides against New England and the Patriots. So for that reason to believe, I think there is something to teams going on unexpected deep runs year after year. Why can't that be the Browns this year? They are definitely a good candidate to do so with not being on too many teams' radars, only winning 7 games last year, but having a very talented roster. So what do you guys think? Will the Browns make the playoffs? Yes or no? Give me your thoughts in the comment section. Oh boy. You just got to feel for Jack at this point. It's getting ugly. It's getting ugly for the producers. It's 1-0 me, but it feels like 10-0.
No. This is hard, man. This isn't like an easy thing. You're not just picking the card out every week. I mean, this is something you got to work for. So I'm not ashamed about this at all.
What do you want to go with?
Give me the Queen of Clubs.
Queen of Clubs, I like that pick. That pick scares me. I won't lie to you. I'm going to go with the 6 of Diamonds. One more cut for good measure. Ooh, 10 of Clubs. 10 of Clubs. That's a tough beat right there. That is it for today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys later. Will the Browns make the playoffs? Yes or no? Let me know in the comment section below what you guys are thinking. We got Ray bidding with a $5 super chat. Ray will throw that on in just a moment. No worries. We got Oren Smith. We got Josh over here. A lot of good guesses, but no one has a 10 of Clubs. Joshua Miller's asking questions, but Levi says yes. Oren says yes. Gregory says yes. Depressed Browns fan says yes. Gregory says no doubt. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I know how loaded the American Football Conference is, but the Browns are one of the 7 best teams in the AFC. That I do believe, and they will make the postseason as a result. So for that reason, I'm going with yes. Now we got a super chat from Ray. We'll throw it on screen. Do you see Elijah Moore going over 1,000 yards? Ray, we will include this question during our mailbag. So if anyone else is watching and wants to get a question, super chat like Ray. But I will say yes. It's going to be a fun two-horse race between DPJ and Elijah Moore for who's the number 2 receiver. But I think about it this way. Of those 2 players, who's under contract for the next 2 years? Elijah Moore. Won't be shocked if Andrew Berry and Deep Podesta maybe sit down Stefanski and go, we don't know if we're going to be able to afford DPJ on the open market. So could we get Elijah Moore some extra targets and touches because we know he's on this team next year. Maybe let's draw up some plays for Elijah Moore. So for that reason, I think he's going to be a big part of this offense. The Browns clearly do, or else they would not have moved on from a second-round pick to get him. So I think if Deshaun Watson gets back to that Pro Bowl form, Elijah Moore is right there with Amari Cooper to be 2,000-yard receivers. Ray will answer that question again in the video during the mailbag. Now, speaking of our mailbag, get your questions in, #Browns, or you can super chat. If you want to beat the line, get to the front, Genie Plus. I've not been to Disney World since Genie Plus. Jack's a Disneyland guy. Oh, you're going to Disney World? Okay, good. Okay, very fun, because I'm kind of a Disney snob. I don't like when people get Disneyland and Disney World wrong.
No. There is a stark difference. There is. Stark difference. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm going to be there in a few weeks. I'm very excited.
Yep, indeed. Okie dokie. We've got a mailbag coming up next on the show. So, Jack, do we have the green light on questions, or do we need some more? All right, we are good to go. Once again, if you want to get to the front of the line, you can super chat. Guarantee your question gets on screen, and we will answer it during this mailbag. Today's Cleveland Browns report was made possible by HexClad. They have the best pots and pans in the dishware industry, and they're giving the Dawg Pound 10% off when you go to hexclad.com/chat and use promo code chat at checkout. Now, we have a mailbag to get to on today's show. This was during our live show, which airs every single Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern. Joshua Miller, first one up to the plate. Any more news and rumors about the stadium? I don't have any updates at this point, at least not while I'm filming here on a Thursday afternoon. These things tend to take some time, so I don't think we're going to see any drastic moves happen over the next few weeks. The Browns and Andrew Berry, because I will add, while Andrew Berry is a general manager, he does more than just sign players and trade players. He's the general manager of the team. He's going to be involved in some capacity for something like this. So things might take a little bit of a pause until the season gets underway. Ray Bidding, what's going on? Do you see Elijah Moore going over 1,000 yards? If I had to pick between Elijah Moore and DPJ to get 1,000 yards, I would pick Elijah Moore, mostly because DPJ is a free agent after this year. And something tells me the Browns might want to get Elijah Moore some extra plays and some extra touches since he's on this roster in 2024. So Stefanski might design some plays for him. And Andrew Berry did not trade away a second-round pick or do a pick swap in day 2 to not have Elijah Moore get force-fed the ball. He's going to get a lot of opportunities. I think Deshaun Watson's capable of having 2,000-yard receivers, and that very well could be Cooper and Moore. Joshua Miller, what's going on? What non-QB player would we steal if allowed to? The easy answer, I feel like, would be like Aaron Donald. But if I'm kind of keeping it somewhat realistic and even taking like the Aaron Donald level players off the board that aren't quarterbacks, if I'm going purely off need, otherwise like Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase would be super fun to add to this team. I would probably go linebacker, right? The best linebacker, and I love Roquan Smith, so there's probably better players, but if we're going filtering down by position of need and not unrealistic, but not wildly unrealistic, Roquan Smith would be a really fun addition. Gregory H., what's going on? Knowing that you'll see OBJ twice a year, who do you think will be best suited to cover him? Good question. Odell Beckham Jr. has not been Odell Beckham Jr. for a long stretch of time, for quite some time. But when it comes to locking him down, if he still has that rare elite combination of speed, size, and hand skills, Denzel Ward is probably the guy for the job. right? Martin Emerson is a lengthier corner, and you'll like that because OBJ is a big frame, but he's not the fastest corner on this roster. Denzel Ward is without a doubt. So for me, put the Ward in on OBJ twice this season. Stephen Kwan's burner. Elijah Moore training with Ravens players, a big deal. I saw this on Twitter. Some old boomers got their panties in a twist about it. Jack, could we get the picture, please, there it is, producer Jack on the fly. So there's Elijah Moore on the right, OBJ on the left, and Zay Flowers in the middle. Who cares? Like, wide receivers, players, they're always training with one another. Tight end does anyone really get that upset? They're all getting better. Yes, I can understand, I probably don't want Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson hanging out all the time because if I'm competitive and if I have rivalries, I like those players on my teams to keep that same flame going, right? Even though they switch teams and we don't switch teams, but still, I don't really get too hot and bothered by this. It's not a big deal, in my opinion. OBJ is probably a good player to learn from. I know the Browns wide receiver room really missed him when he left last year or 2 years ago now. So I don't think it's a bad idea for Elijah Moore to be learning from one of the greats, in my opinion, when healthy and when not playing in a Cleveland Browns offense with Baker Mayfield throwing him the ball behind him in Minnesota. But we'll never bring that up again. Let me know. Do you care if Elijah Moore trains with Ravens? I don't care. I think this is a non-story. It's July. Things are a bit slow, and that's why people are talking about it. Military history. Do you think J.D. McKissic would be a great fit for our offense? So that's a good question, military history. I also love the name, by the way. But I think J.D. McKissic would bring a new wrinkle to this running back room as a receiving threat. We know that Kevin Stefanski has never had a lot of trust in Nick Chubb as a receiving running back. He's never put him in those situations on third down. He always went to Kareem Hunt in those situations. So J.D. McKissic would probably fit what Kevin Stefanski wants to do in 3rd and 8s, and you want to do a screen, and you don't want to have Nick Chubb on the field too much. So I think he probably could bring some complementary football to this running back room. Now, before we get on with the rest of today's mailbag, it was brought to you by Hexclad. Our proud sponsor today has the best deal for the Dawg Pound when it comes to the best pots and pans on the market. 10% off when you go to hexclad.com/chat and use promo code chat. Now, let me tell you guys all about the revolutionary cookware that is Hexclad because it comes with a hybrid pan that gives you all the convenience and cleanup of non-stick, which I'm not even a chef, I'm not even a sous chef, but I know how much it sucks cleaning up after cooking and dishes getting burned at the bottom and whatnot, and pots and pans not cleaning well. But Hexclad, all that goes away because of this awesome non-stick versatility, along with the versatility of your grandma's cast iron and a lifetime warranty, just in case you somehow find a way to destroy them, but you'd be the first to do so. Now, you can get 10% off when you use promo code chat at checkout by going to hexclad.com/chat. Gordon Ramsay, my favorite chef in the world, loves Hexclad. Here's why he uses them. The sear I get with these pans is incredible, with absolutely no stick. The temperature control is utter perfection, and the cleanup is effortless. I love using Hexclad at home. Now, what Chef Ramsay is not saying is how great it is to throw it from the blue kitchen to the red kitchen, but I am sure that he loves that about Hexclad as well. They're the sexiest pans on the market, so you can score some points at home as well. Stop getting delivery food. Stop dining out, spending a fortune on that, gaining weight. I know that all too well. Start being a big boy and cooking at home with Hexclad. You can get 10% off, like I said. Get these awesome pots and pans when you go to hexclad.com/chat. Promo code chat. All that information is in the comments and the description of today's video. Levi Mayfield next up on the show. Do you think one of our linebackers could get 5+ sacks now that we have somewhat a strong defensive line? I don't think so, and here's why. Jim Schwartz is not going to blitz a ton of his linebackers. They're going to have a decent amount of 5 down linemen, so that means 2 off-ball linebackers, probably JOK and Anthony Walker if everyone's healthy. When you have 5 defensive linemen, a big part of that is you don't have to blitz, right? You can get home with your 4 to 5 down linemen. A dream world for a defensive coordinator is never having to blitz because your 4 down linemen, your 4 defensive linemen can get to the quarterback without any help. That is something that Jim Schwartz brings, right? He gets his defensive linemen in great spots in ISO situations with tackles so that they can get after the quarterback, and Schwartz does not have to dial up the temperature. He's no Greg Williams. He's no Dr. Heat. He ain't bringing the house all that often, so I don't think a linebacker, which, by the way, any off-ball linebacker getting 5 sacks is a very big number. Like Devin White did that with Tampa Bay. I think he got to 5.5, but it's not very common. Tim Green, what's going on, dude? With so much talent in camp, who would you hate to go because of the depth? Example, Jakeem Grant, Anthony Schwartz. I see what you're saying where the Browns wide receiver room, it could field like 2 NFL wide receiver rooms. Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and Anthony Schwartz on one team, and Donovan Peoples-Jones, Cedric Tillman, and Jakeem Grant on another team, right? So there are a lot of great wide receivers. Jakeem Grant is probably, I might steal your example here because of how deep the wide receiver room is. I'm also going to plug Thomas Graham. He's a corner that the Browns signed. He was with the Chicago Bears, a UDFA or 7th-round pick, I can't remember, out of Oregon. He's a good cornerback. Thomas Graham and Jakeem Grant would be my 2 picks. Tim, thanks so much for the question now. Depressed Browns fan, what's going on? What seed do you think the Cleveland Browns will be if they make the playoffs? If history repeats itself, which as a student of history and someone who watches a lot of World War II in color when my girlfriend's out of town, there will not be a Cincinnati Bengals championship this year because no team has won the AFC North 3 straight years since its inception over 2 decades ago. So if it's one of those 3 other teams, I'm not a believer in Kenny Pickett. So we're down to the Browns and the Ravens are going to be good. But I think the Browns, if they win the division, they could be the 3 seed. I think it's going to be Chiefs probably number 1. I'm not going to bet against the Chiefs until Patrick Mahomes is off that team. And the number 2 spot, hard to say. I'm not a big believer in the Bills this year. I think they're going to regress a little bit. The Dolphins are going to be sneaky. How about the Browns as the 2 seed? I know that's really ambitious. It's July. Why not have some fun with it, though? Rickety Splits. What is a proper ranking for Deshaun Watson? You know, this is a very good question, Mr. Rickety Splits, because it's hard to rank quarterbacks, right? Are we ranking them for just one season alone, just next year? Is it a ranking based off of how they did last year? Or is it off their whole career going into this year? Because if it's off their whole career, then 6 bad games from Deshaun Watson last year really shouldn't tank him all that much, right? The guy was the passing leader in 2020. So a proper ranking for Deshaun Watson, I think I think if you asked NFL GMs to draft all 32 QBs for just one season, Deshaun Watson would go between 5 and 10. Right? I think Mahomes, Allen, and Burrow are going to go 1, 2, and 3. And then it can get a little bit dicey after that with Lamar, with Trevor Lawrence, with Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts. But I think Watson would go in that 5 to 10 range if GMs got to redraft all the starting quarterbacks this year for just one season. Because it's also important to include the longevity, right? Tom Brady probably wouldn't go super high into the redraft if he was playing this year because no one thinks he's going to play for the next 10 years, whereas Herbert and Watson very well could. Now, this is just getting out of control because I don't know if Rickety Splits is referring to, I think it was Pro Football Focus that ranked him 26, Pro Football Network, one of those 2 sites did. That was just embarrassing. I mean, that was clearly an attention grabbing. Let's get some engagement on Twitter, get people super mad and super stirred up. No one actually believes Deshaun Watson is the 26th best quarterback in the NFL. There are not 25 other teams taking 25 quarterbacks ahead of Deshaun Watson. So pick a quarterback, Deshaun Watson or Kenny Pickett. I'm going with number 4, Deshaun Watson. TJ Kennedy, what are the chances our defense ranks in the top 10 in takeaways this year? So defensive rankings are always so fluid from year to year. Offense, it's a lot easier to be consistent in, but defense, once you get to the top of the mountain, it's not easy to stay at the top for very long. So what are the chances? They've got a lot of playmakers, right? Greg Newsome and Martin Emerson are still looking for their first INTs, but Denzel Ward is no stranger to 99-yard pick sixes. Myles Garrett can get a lot of forced fumbles and turn that ball around. Top 10 chances, good, because Jim Schwartz is one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. Off the top of my head, I don't know where the Browns ranked in takeaways last year, but if I had to guess, probably in that 16 to 20 range, and getting from 16 to 10 isn't asking all that much, but I think chances, to give you a number, 55. Put me down for 55%. It's the pass master. Any other free agents you could see Cleveland going after? I'm still iffy on the safeties and parts of the offensive line, but yes, this team should make the playoffs. # real one. Pass master, you are a real one. Safeties, no, because they added Rodney McLeod. It would be iffy if they didn't, and it was all about D'Anthony Bell, the UDFA last year, but I think they're comfortable at safety right now. Plus, I like their UDFA signings as well. Offensive line, I mean, you're usually the only time teams would add an offensive lineman is if they have all 5 starters, they don't have their swing tackle. They've got that in DeJuan Jones, the 4th-round pick out of Ohio State. They don't quite have a Yelda Froholt replacement, at least not as of right now, clearly, as a guard who could step in and fill in for Wyatt Teller, because you know Bitonio is not going to miss a snap, knock on wood. Nick Harris could be versatile. Maybe he bounces around the interior offensive line, but I don't think they add a safety or an offensive lineman. If they do add someone, maybe it's a linebacker like Miles Jack, who's gotten some traction the last few days or weeks or so because of the big question mark in terms of when will Walker, Taki, Phillips, and JOK all be 100%. If 2 of those 4 are on IR to start the year, which wouldn't blow me away, then maybe they want to add another linebacker. Jack couldn't wait to get to this portion of the show. It's the pick a card time. I think I'm just getting in your head episode after episode at this point.
No, I'm just...
You're cool, calm, and collective?
I'm more just trying to... Now it's like a sport to me. I'm trying to calculate, okay, this half of the deck is usually what gets picked, you know, and then I psych myself out. Oh, yep. Should I pick lower number or should I stay with the higher numbers?
Look at you. You're a mess.
I'm not a mess.
You're a damn mess.
I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm trying to be analytical.
You're like Charlie Green with the big chart in Always Sunny.
That's me.
All right, what do you want to go with?
You go first.
Oh, I like it. I did not see that coming. I'm going to go with the 9 of diamonds.
Give me the 2 of spades.
2 of spades. One more cut for good measure. Ooh, might be a first timer. Ace of clubs. We've only had one ace drawn, I believe. This would be the second ace, but both of us nowhere near the mark. Now, that is it for today's mailbag. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you like today's show, subscribe, follow along for more free content all year long. Do we care about Elijah Moore working out with OBJ? I don't care. There are other things to worry about right now. Not who Elijah Moore is working out with. Come on. This just seems too low for me. Okay. So we got some conversations going in the chat right now, but I don't see anyone putting up together an ace of clubs. Military history, you might be one of my favorite YouTube names because everyone here at Chat Sports knows that I'm a history junkie, and anytime I get the opportunity to throw a World War II movie on or documentary, I'm doing it. Yeah, Jack's a big military. Yeah. I recently watched the movie Monuments Men. Star-studded. George Clooney, Matt Damon, great story. I mean, World War II, it always feels like all the stories have been told, but then they keep coming out with, I don't know if they're all real, or at least somewhat fictionalized, but some great stories that are being shared. Okay, so make sure to subscribe if you have not already. We really appreciate everyone who takes time out of their Thursdays to come hang out with us here. Unless we get another super chat in the next minute or so, we do have to sign off and give up Studio F today. But big shout out to Jack Lauderay. You guys have no idea how much work he puts in behind the scenes to get this plane off the ground. So everyone should clap it up for Jack in the chat. Joshua Miller, thank you for getting me through cooking dinner. We'll end with this. Josh, what did you have for dinner? And then Jack and I will give our dinner plans because I don't know what I'm going to do for dinner tonight. Are you cooking at home with Hexclad or are you dining out? Yeah, I put you in the spot right there too.
Well, I got to go get a haircut, so I probably will eat out
That's
tonight,
okay. Now, how about this? If you were cooking at home with Hexclad, what would you be cooking? Like, what's the Jack Lauderay signature dish?
You know, I make a mean crunch wrap.
See, that's a very difficult thing to do, actually.
I've made some. I got like a little, so like you do it all in the Hexclad pan, and then you get the George Foreman grill.
I like it.
And then you do the crunch wrapping on the George Foreman grill, and you press it, and then it's all ready to go.
My new thing, and I've never been a big seafood guy, but cooking some nice salmon at home with some potatoes and like broccoli or rice, you just feel good about yourself because you're like, I got some good meat in me, but like it's very light. And I mean, I'll always take a steak over a fish, but it's a lot easier and cheaper to cook salmon than cook a steak. Joshua Miller, we will answer this super chat, and unless we get another one, we will sign off and get on out of here. But Josh, super chat MVP of the day, thank you so much. Joshua Miller asking, who are the Arizona Cardinals tanking for? That is Jack Lauderay's hometown team from the great state of Arizona. What's the Arizona State nickname? The Desert State?
Grand Canyon State.
Oh, that's dumb. I knew that. Yeah, good trivia. So they're taking for Caleb Williams. They do have 2 first-round picks. They have one from Houston. What I'm not sure about is when they made that trade with Houston, if they got the Browns' first-round pick or the Texans' first. I don't remember explicitly someone saying it's the Texans, not the Browns. I'm sure that they worked that out because that's a big difference, right? What the Texans are going to do this year, the expectations, and what the Browns are going to do. The Browns could be picking like 24, 25, for example. The Texans could be picking 1 and 2. Yeah, exactly. I'll put it this way. Arizona Cardinals, I don't think they're going to go quarterback. I think they're going to stick by Kyler. But then again, what if Kyler gets the... I don't know.
Kiwi. If they have the number 1 overall pick, they are going to take Caleb Williams. Any team, I think, honestly, any team, unless you're like the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, I'd say any other team, if you have that number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams is like, potentially at least, a generational talent.
I know all that. But I think some people were too quick to just slander Kyler and say he's done after last year.
I don't think Kyler's done. I think what will happen is they'll find a way to get out of his contract.
There's no getting out of that. Then they'll
trade him.
They'll trade him. Yes,
they'll trade him. They'll get rid of him. Like in some way, shape, or form.
You're saying.
They'll get rid of him. He'll go to another team and he'll be successful. I don't think he's a bad quarterback.
Yeah.
But I think that bridges have been burnt there, and I just don't think he loves that environment. I don't think they love him there either.
They gave him a huge pay.
Because
how can he not like that team?
Okay, maybe
they gave him a lot of money to play Call of Duty.
I don't know if the organization does because
the new organization, new GM, new head coach. I get that. So I guess Caleb Williams is the textbook answer, but man, I have some hesitancy. I think Marvin Harrison goes number 2 overall because and he'll have a better career than Caleb Williams or Drake May going number 1. I think that much. I'm pretty high on Marvin Harrison. But Josh, thank you so much for the super chat. We're going to sign off. Let everyone enjoy the rest of their Thursday nights. We'll see you guys later.